Hello, my name is Paul, and today we're going to be talking about education and the future of children. We're going to start making this world a better place for our children. And today we're going to go through the Bible and find out how to do that. A healthy body is a healthy mind. We have to get children to eat more fruits, nuts, grains and vegetables. I don't believe in a high protein diet, but we have to get more fruits, nuts and vegetables in our children so their bodies can build better, and obviously they can think better and they can be clearer. A good diet should help them think better and study better, and it should help them grow better. And this is one of the fundamental principles of trying to build up our kids for tomorrow. So the building blocks for principle of nutrition is the building blocks of a good body for a young child. Not just for the child, but the mothers too. The mothers, we know what happens to a mother who smokes with the unborn baby. We know what the unborn baby, when it's born, will have lifelong problems. We know what alcohol does to the brain. It kills brain cells. And imagine a mother drinking alcohol with an unborn baby. That kills the brain cells of a baby before it's born. So mothers are killing their children, and fathers, you have to, husbands and fathers, you've got to start doing the right thing too. You have to all be on the right diet, support the mother with the unborn baby, because birth defects are not God's fault. Birth defects are not God's fault. It's a mother's fault and a father for leading her. Because what happens is, if you eat alcohol with an unborn baby inside your body, the alcohol will destroy the brain cells. The smoking will get, the baby will be addicted to smoking before it's born and have lifelong problems. So we've got a lack of nutrition in your diet will means the baby won't develop in your womb as well as it should. So mothers, you've got to be on the right diet. Obviously, Mrs. White says for breakfast there should be a salad, a raw salad. That means tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, kale, spinach. For afternoon, you should have a fruit salad. So that means bananas, apricots, oranges. What this means is, she says, is have a raw salad. This means organic, not GMOs, but organic raw salad. And she said 2 meals a day. She said you'll find 2 meals are better than 3, but if you work hard, a third meal may be needed. So mothers, you in particular, if you've got an unborn baby, you need to keep the dietary laws. Also, don't wear tight clothing. Mrs. White says don't wear tight clothing because it blocks the blood flow. So when you wear clothes, you should wear more dresses and less belts around your waist all the time. But especially if you've got an unborn baby and you block the blood flow to the unborn baby, they're more likely to have birth defects. So poor diet, chemical abuse like alcohol and cigarettes, and tight clothing can have great problems with the unborn baby. And this is going to cause so many diseases when the baby's born. This will cause multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, all sorts of problems. So if you want your baby to succeed, before the baby's born, you eat the right diet. After the baby's born, you eat the right diet. This should help your unborn child grow into a great model for society to look at, and a good servant of the Most High God. Good and bad habits are developed from the day the child's born. So the day the child's born, they should be encouraged to do dishes, mow lawns, be a good citizen of society. So when they grow up, they'll actually, the first thing comes to mind, if someone falls over, they'll help them up. The first thing that works to be done, they'll do it. Here in Proverbs and in Ephesians, it says, in Proverbs it says, train your child up so when he gets old he will not depart from ways. That's saying teach your children good habits from the day they're born. And Ephesians says, children, obey your parents in the Lord. This does not mean, if your parents tell you to work on Saturday, you say, no, Dad and Mum, I have to obey God. God's more important than you. But if you are to trust your parents. If you don't know any better, you are to trust your parents, because the parents are supposed to know what's right. They are supposed to teach your children good habits. And if you find out their parents are wrong, you may disobey them, because you can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and your parents. You serve God first and your parents second. That's the way of God's design. So what we've got to do is we've got to train up a child from the day it's born. From the time the child's able to walk, it should be doing dishes, even if it does a half-hearted job. At least it's encourage them to do work from the day they're born. If you see a kid fall over in the street, you get your child and tell your child to help that kid up. Good habits are built in their brain from an early age, as Proverbs says. And when the child grows up, the first thing they're going to do when they see someone in trouble, they're going to feel quite comfortable to help them out. You've got to make sure you show your children the ways of life, of God's laws from the day they're born. And when they get older, they'll be a good model of society. You also give your kids a chance to be the most chance to be saved. Because if you teach your kids to be a good person from the day they're born, their chances are they got a lot better chance of being saved than in the kingdom of heaven. Also, they got a better chance of doing the Lord's work. Again, the Lord's work shouldn't start when you're a teenager. The Lord's work should start when you're a little child. So when you grow up, you're used to it. You'll feel comfortable about it. You're not depressed. You don't feel uncomfortable. You don't know what you're doing. So from the day you're born, you should be encouraged to work. You should be teaching kids about saws and how to quickly cut wood, how to hammer nails in, and get them to understand, well, this is how we work. This is how society works. And so when they grow older, the child will be an adult and will be quite comfortable living under the commandments of the Lord Most High, and also helping out its neighbour. These habits have to develop from a young age. We saw before in Ephesians that you are to actually obey your parents as long as they obey God's commandments. So if your parents go to church on Sunday, you're allowed to say no to that. But if your parents tell you to do something, you should say, yes, I have to do it. But here in Ephesians it says, fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. And in Colossians it says the same thing, do not provoke your children to anger. So parents, you've got to start doing the right thing. You've got to understand that raising children is not about being a bully. It's about teaching. You are a teacher. You are not a bully, and you're not an enforcer. You are not to be selfish. So fathers, you are not to be a bully and say, me, 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 it's all about me. No, you're not allowed to do that. You're to raise your children in the light of the Lord. Children have got a right to disobey their parents if the parents are telling them to break God's commandments, like working on Sabbath. You've got to tell your parents, no, mum and dad, I'm going to worship God. That's what we've got to do. Your parents have got to start taking responsibility. Yes, if a child grows up with television and watching Sex and the City and grows up in prostitution or sleeping around or grows up watching UFC and becomes violent, the children on Judgment Day will have to give an account to the Most High for the disobedience and the harm they've done to society. But the father will too for letting these practices come into their household. The father and the mother have got an obligation to teach the children of the commandments of God. They can't say, oh, that part of the Bible doesn't matter. They've got no right to. And if another thing too, if a father lies or mother lies to the children about the Bible, saying, oh, you don't have to keep the Sabbath, and the child rejects the Bible, that's a mum and dad's fault. You can't raise your children that way. But with the anger part of it, I just showed you in Ephesians, fathers, you've got a right to tell the children the truth. If a child says to your dad, I think your Baptist church is wrong, or the Catholic church is wrong, we should be worshiping on Saturday, you don't lie to them, you don't abuse them, you say, yes, son, you're right, or yes, daughter, you're right. If you lie to them, you're lying about the Bible. It's not a lie against the child, but it's against a lie against the Most High God. Yes, the children are to obey the parents, unless the Bible says otherwise. In other words, like if a father says to break the Sabbath, you say, no, Dad, I can't do it. But if the father says, can you mow the lawns on Wednesday, you say, yes, Dad, I'll do it straight away, because it's not breaking God's commandments. The father is second in charge of a household. You hear the old saying, you live under my roof, you live under my laws. Not so. It's not your roof, fathers. It's God's roof. You fathers got to live under God's laws, and you children got to live under God's laws. You fathers are second in charge. You are not first in charge. This is what it says. And also, do not provoke your children to anger. This means don't be a bully. Don't lie to them. If the Bible says keep the Sabbath holy and they ask you, you tell them, because I tell you now, there are many fathers out there who are refusing to tell the truth to their children, and mothers too. And it says in Exodus 20, I'll curse the children up to the third and fourth generations. So many fathers are cursing their own kids because they're not keeping God's commandments. Like, God went 40 years in the wilderness with the Jews for not keeping his commandments. He does the same to fathers with unfaithful fathers, naughty fathers. He does upon their children to the third and fourth generations. So what that means is, as long as you're alive, fathers, and you break God's commandments, you will see your kids suffer. So what I'm saying is, yes, you are the father, and yes, you are second in charge of a household. The Bible's first in charge, but yet you cannot make up your own laws. You've got to obey the commandments of God. You can curse you face not just cursing your kids, but on Judgment Day, if you refuse to tell the truth about the Bible, like you tell your children it doesn't matter which day they worship on, it's not lying to your children, it's lying to God, and you will be accountable for your decisions. And if you tell lies to your children and raise them incorrectly, and your child does evil, your child on Judgment Day will be punished, and so will you for telling lies, because God's going to hold you. It'll be more tolerable on a day of judgment for children who are raised incorrectly than it will be for naughty parents who refuse to tell the truth. And again, parents can bear false witness against God. They can tell their children it doesn't matter what day you worship on, it doesn't matter what you eat. I'm a boss, but you know, it's my roof, my rules, but that's not true. It is not your roof and your rules, it's God's roof and God's rules. You fathers have to keep the Sabbath and God's laws too. And you are to teach your children these laws. And children, if your parents tell you to mow the lawns, you on a Wednesday or a Thursday, you do it. Not on Saturday, but on the Sabbath, but on other days you are to do it. If your parents say do the dishes, you do it. You do not whinge and complain. The only time you do not obey your parents is when God says to obey him instead. I hope I made it crystal clear that parents, you are to teach your children the commandments of God. And children, you are to obey your parents unless the Bible says otherwise. So I'll put it this way. If your father tells you to break the Sabbath, you say, sorry Dad, I'm going to follow the Bible. God says I can't do that. You say no to your father. But if the father says, if I want you to mow the lawns on Wednesday, you say yes Dad, because you're the second judge. It's not your father's roof. You heard the old saying, well, you're under my roof, you live under my laws. No, it's God's roof. You live under God's laws. God's Sabbath, God's dietary laws. Fathers, you are number 2. You are second in charge. You are not number 1. You are second. Mothers too. So you can't say it's a lie from the devil. When the father says under my roof, under my laws, that's a lie from the devil. It's not his roof. It's the Most High God's roof, and the father's second in charge. You see, what it is, raising children is not about being a bully or being arrogant and trying to have life good for yourself. It's about teaching your children the difference between right and wrong. preparing them a way to serve the Most High that they can save other people, and making sure that they raise correctly, that they live a good holy life, that they may enter the kingdom of heaven. That's your job as parents. And children, if you don't know any better, you would obey your parents unless the Bible tells you otherwise. That's what I'm trying to say. Here I show you that in creation, God had it right. This is what we're supposed to teach our children. We're going to make this world a better place for our children, not just for ourselves, but for children also. Again, we have to keep God's commandments. So parents, I'm having to go parents today because parents are supposed to teach their children. Little children I cannot teach. It's the parents' responsibility. So I'm trying to show parents how to teach children. Parents, you've got an obligation not just to teach your children to keep the commandments of God and obey you second, because that's what you should be telling them, but you also got to teach them, show them the right way. It says in the Bible that, I'll show you it right now. Yahweh said that a son can do nothing of himself but only what he sees his father doing. So whatever he does, the son does likewise. So the Bible says, parents, not only to teach them about the Sabbath and the dietary laws and 10 Commandments, then you can actually tell them to do what you say afterwards. When you keep God's commandments, after you keep God's commandments, parents, you are free to put any other commandments on the children you think it is reasonable and efficient to do so. But it also says in John that the son can see what his father doing. So if the father swears a lot, the kid's going to swear. And it's true, because I'll put it this way. How do you think a child learns how to speak English? It learns it from its parents. So if the English it hears is polite and generous and kind words, the child will say that too. But if the child hears abusive and swearing language, it's going to repeat it. Parents, you have got obligation to live your life holy in front of your child, because they're going to copy you. You heard the old saying, monkey see, monkey do. And again, I'm not saying children are innocent but it's not my job to tell children what to do. It's my job to tell parents what to do, and the parents are to obey the Most High and teach their children. I'll put it this way. If a child sees their parents in a loveless relationship and swearing and fighting, the child's going to grow up and not wanting marriage itself. It's going to say, well, if marriage is like that, I could care less. But if a child sees their parents are affectionate to each other, loving and holding hands, the child will want to see that too. So parents, you've got to make sure in front of your children, keep it decent, but you've got to show your love for your partner, your husband and your wife in front of your children. You've got to show kind words to your children. You've got to teach your children how to live as a human being. If you as a parent, if you see someone falling over, you should help them out. If you see a kid falling over, you should get your children to help that kid up. You're supposed to set the good example. You can't expect your kids to be good people if you're not a good person yourself. If you're violent and throwing punches, they're going to see the same thing and they're going to start copying you. It's not just parents which they copy, it's television as well. It shows like shows that show women sleeping around and fighting in violent shows, and where they can punch. A little kid will hit his brother in the head with a truck, and it will start becoming violent. We get used to hurting people at a young age. This is unheard of, and parents, you got to get rid of the television, especially the shows which they shouldn't be doing. Like educational shows are fine, like how to build houses and teach them how to cut wood and stuff like that. That's fine. But shows which are encouraging violence and sexual morality and bad behaviour, you need to get rid of the television, because it's really not a very good teacher for the children. Also, you need to start behaving yourselves in front of the children. If you do something wrong, the children's going to see you and copy you, and it's your fault. You've got to start doing the right thing too. As Yahweh said in John, a son will copy his father. So not only do you have to teach the child about the 10 Commandments and the dietary laws and the feast, and not only do you have to keep the dietary laws so the kids will grow up healthy and strong from the day they're conceived in the womb, but you also have to live the whole life. Some people might say, I don't like these, it's too hard for me. Well, if this lifestyle is too hard for you, then you shouldn't be married. As simple as that. Same as if you don't want to take care of your wife, you don't want to eat the right foods and live to 100, you want to eat unclean meat and die at the age of 40. If you want to do that, don't get married. Do the right thing. If you want to be married, it's a commandment of God, but it's also, you have to live it the right way. It's better not to get married than to live under these evil, these abominations. But saying that, the Bible says be fruitful and multiply, but it also says keep the commandments of God. This is why you have to be a godly model. And if your kids grow up to be against the word of God and against and hurting other people, then you failed as a father and a mother. You've got to obey God's commandments today. A lot of parents use this verse in Proverbs 13:24 so they can hit their children, but they don't realise in Deuteronomy 25 verse 3 that says that the parents also got the strap too. They got up to 40 lashes in the same time. They don't mention that. So if the parents who were late to work, they used to get the strap as well. They forget to mention this. So I'm trying to make a point here. I'm not saying don't. Spanking a child may actually help them if they willfully disobedient. I'm not saying don't do it, but I have to understand that it's not about abusing a child. It's about the good of a child to try to teach them what they've done is wrong. Yes, the Bible does say you may smack a child. Obviously not in the head. It's against the law and it's damaging. But it does say you may spoil the rod for the sake of a child. What this means is you don't hit a child every time it makes a mistake. We as adults make mistakes. We get in car accidents. We have to fix them up. We break something, we have to fix it. The same as a child. If a child breaks a window and then, okay, if it's got money, it goes and fixes it up. Or if it doesn't have money, if a father buys a glass and the kid can actually pull the window down and put the new window in and fix it up by itself. If a kid fixes its own mistakes up, it doesn't need to be punished. The idea of punishment is not about when a kid makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. If we break a window, we fix it. Or if a child, let's say he breaks someone's pencil at school and he replaces it, or he trips someone over and he helps him up and he puts him on the seat and takes care of a child. If a child makes a mistake and fixes his own mistakes up, he doesn't need to be punished because he's learned his lesson already. But when it says we may hit the child with a rod, it only means when it does something willfully wrong. It means like it's done something sneaky and it won't repent. It's only when the child doesn't repent and it's clear that it's been a bully at school or done something wrong, then you get the rod out. That's the only time. But if a child makes a mistake and then fixes the mistake up, it doesn't need to be punished because you don't, because of what you're doing. If you punish a child for making mistakes, you're actually encouraging the child to lie, because if they tell the truth, they're going to get in trouble. Where the child should be saying, okay, I tell the truth, I made a mistake, I fixed it up. That's fine. That's what it means. And also, the parents have to understand that in the Bible days, yes, the child got the rod, so did the parents. If a parent was late, if a dad was late to work, he got the strap as well. So it works both ways. So really, you have to take this into mind. Yes, but yes, if a child willfully does something wrong and won't repent, and you try to reason with him and he doesn't listen, then you choose to smack him, then that's a different story. And the Bible supports that. I hate saying it, but the Bible does support that, and the Word of God must reign supreme. So we see today a lot of males in particular are getting into bodybuilding and steroid abuse, and a lot of females are trying to become anorexic. This is because of not just television, but toys they've come up with. These are sending bad role models for kids. Kids shouldn't be expected to become like He-Man or Barbie. They should be able to live their life without drugs and testosterone levels, or with eating proper meals, so they don't become anorexic. You see, what television's doing is setting bad example. Or the television's also setting it's okay to sleep around, it's okay to punch and hurt people, like some of these fighting shows on television. So television is a really bad role model. Television can do a lot of good. You can learn how to, or YouTube is really good. You can learn how to cut wood. You can learn how to weld metal. It's so much good on television, but it's a lot of bad too. A lot of these doctrines which are coming out of television really need to be kept away from children. It's sending bad messages that it's okay to hit your kid brother on the head with a truck, or it's okay to... Some of these stupid shows, it's really bad influence on children. That's why we've got to start teaching our children the right way. We've got to teach them education. Now, we're going to go into education now, and education is what I call is not fulfilled. In some parts of the world, they actually have 3 or 4 hours a day. They have less subjects, but children study less, but they absorb more information. And I believe that is the best way to do it. Instead of having a child for 6 hours a day, maybe it should be 3 hours a day, and have it easier just to absorb. Because what happens is, the less information goes into a child, the more they remember. It's just science, and we're going to teach what needs to happen. Some of the subjects need to go, and some of them need to be. Some subjects need to come into schools, because really we need to live this life, teach our children so they can be self-sufficient when they're older, a good, loving person, a good role model for society. At school and at home, we need to teach our children, if someone falls over, help them out. We've got to stick in these habits from a young age. From before the day they reach their first day of school, they should be willing to help out other people, and they should be able to know how to treat people with kindness and respect from the day they're born. As I show you how to raise kids today, what we need to do with children is at schools, this should be teaching the same message to children. So when children go up through schools, that they understand what needs to be done as a parent. So when they have children of their own, they'll be expert parents before the day they have their first child. As you see my other video about animal cruelty, I don't think we should be having pets anyway, or pet dogs. But in creation, the Most High gave Adam, it said, be fruitful and multiply, and gave him dominion over the earth. So really, the Most High said, humans that have dominion over the earth, we're to treat all animals with kindness and respect, whether it be the birds of the air or the fish of the sea. And that means don't go killing for sport, that means take care of them. We're to show kindness, and we're to learn how to take care of this world that God has given us. Remember, in the book of Revelation, God, the Most High, says, I'll destroy those who destroy the earth. Obviously, the dress code, no tight clothing is to be given, so because it blocks the blood flow, but also high heels are bad for your back. See the woman in the black who's got the high heels on? She's actually arching her back to keep balance. We need to teach girls that high heels, there's a better way than high heels. You don't have to have high heels. It's not good for you. This is what makes it crystal clear in the spirit of prophecy that competitive sports is not the right thing to do. We all love competitive sports. I love growing up watching them. But now I'm older, I know that the Bible says, that the spirit of prophecy says not to do that. But anyway, so I'm not encouraging anyone to participate in sports, competitive sports, because I know that's not really the right. This is why it says in the spirit of prophecy that the same attributes in the Colosseums is in what sports today. So I'm not saying doing that, but I am saying we should teach our children how to be. We should teach our children in schools Cert 3 and Cert 4 in personal fitness or personal training, because what this does, it teaches a child how to take care of its own body when it's older. I don't think it's right that a few people can charge a high amount of money so that you can keep your body fit. Everybody should have the same knowledge, and this should be taught throughout the schools, that from the primary school to high school, how to be fit and how to train your body, lifting weights the right way and how to run the right way. And by the time you leave school, you should be qualified in Cert 3 and Cert 4 in personal fitness. Part of the education system should be how to fix cars, like even if it's just replace an engine, how to recondition an engine, how to just basic mechanics, so they can do most of the repairs themselves. Because today, a lot of mechanics charge a high amount of money for simple jobs, and it costs a fortune in today's society. If kids can do it themselves, not only can they fix their own cars, but they can fix other people's cars too, and bring a kindness of love throughout the region. Obviously, how safety aspects of cutting wood and how to cut wood and do joints and how to put wood together, carpentry and joinery, this needs to be taught in schools as well. I do agree that we should be teaching children English, but not so much. They shouldn't be reading satanic novels at school, and that English should be lowered. So the only thing that children need to be able to do is read out a small book and how to write out simple letters. That's what we need to do in English, and obviously get the spelling right and the grammar right. That's what needs to happen in English classes. We're teaching far too much English, and a lot of times wasted when we don't need to teach them a high heap of novels which they shouldn't be reading anyway. All children should be taught how to grow their own food, from composting to mulching to planting seeds, how to plant, how to germinate. All this stuff needs to be taught for children, and they need to be able to leave school know full well that if they get a large farm, they can save a lot of money by growing their own food, and they can also help a lot of people by giving the food away and making a lot more friends. We need to put in the education system how a marriage should work. So this means we need to teach the bad side effects of domestic violence, that's not acceptable. We also need to teach that when you're married, you live for the other person, you're not to live for yourself and not to be selfish. These attributes need to be taught for schools, and parents should be teaching the same thing too, but this needs to be taught in a curriculum so that when the children get up and get married, they won't get divorced and they won't be living in domestic violence, they'll be living a happy and loving relationship. Obviously, I think we should be teaching less English, just the basics, and more maths, because really maths is the most important thing we can do today. In computer programming, it's all algebra. How to build houses is all mathematics, about the carpentry, the angles. All this stuff has to happen. So I believe a lot less English in schools today and a lot more in mathematics. Even though the gas isn't well and bad for you, and it's not something I would recommend, I still believe children should know how to weld and know the basic principles of welding so they can build stuff themselves, because when they get older they can save themselves a lot of money and they can be a lot more efficient in doing what they need to do and build more stuff that's custom made for them. I also believe that children should know the principles of metals and how they make metals in the olden days, even if they don't know how to make steel the old-fashioned way like here, but they still understand the principles, at least theoretically, because one day we might have to go back to it if we're ever caught in the wilderness. I do agree that we should teach children how to weld, even though I'm not a huge advocate of welding because of the gases, but I also reckon we should teach them in theory how metal was made in the old days, how they used to smelt iron into steel, and that theoretically needs to be in the brain. But I do believe that it's more history, but I do believe that we need to know how to make things ourselves, so that if one day we need to make something, we can do it. We don't have to be relying on other people. I believe that if we teach history, we need to teach history fully. I think that needs to be more focused on history, not so that we don't make the same mistakes that have been made in the past. That means it's got to be honest, it's got to be truthful, and if that means our people have done evil in the past, like putting the Negroes in slavery, then we've got to teach it, because if we don't teach the truth, we're doomed to make the same mistakes our ancestors made. I believe some subjects have to go. Obviously, English is far too long. All we need to do in English is teach them the basics, ABCs, and how to write letters and how to read small books and write small letters and maybe small columns. So that I reckon English needs to go. I reckon geography needs to go, if I think it has, because when I was in school I used to do geography, but we don't do it now. A lot of subjects have to go. Home economics has to go, because really, how hard is it? If you want to cook something, you just go get a recipe and you follow the recipe and you cook whatever you do. So home economics needs to go. PE, personal education, needs to go, because with PE it's all about ball games, and this is why it says that the same spirit of the Colosseums is still in sports today. We need to get rid of all these and replace PE with personal education with personal fitness. So you get a Cert 3 or Cert 4 in fitness. We need to get rid of home economics and replace it with nutrition. And we need to start putting English classes down, downsizing English classes, more mathematics, more on science, and because really science and building is really important. And we need more about using your hands, because really in creation, there wasn't paperwork in creation. When did Adam and Eve ever write letters to each other? That's why I'm saying less English and more hands-on education. And obviously kids will love it because more hands-on education means less homework. And obviously less hours at school too, so they can absorb more information. And I reckon more about hands-on things. So instead of having home economics, which is cooking, because you can always just cook get a recipe, how about teaching nutrition? So instead of teaching children how to read a recipe off in our book off internet, how about let's teach children how to eat properly so that they actually get the right balance of nutrition, that they can grow strong and healthy, and have a more of a scientific view of it, so that they can become so when they leave school they are fully qualified nutritionists. Obviously, we as 7 Adventists know that high protein is bad for you, and obviously the milk and the dairy and egg. That's why I've got the cross on there. But the other, we need to understand what effects it has by eating bananas, fruits, nuts and vegetables, how to grow your foods better, because obviously good soil, when you grow a tomato you want to be nice and red, you want lots of colour. These are the attributes we need to teach children, not how to cook, but what to eat, the more raw diet in particular. And obviously we need to teach more science, how the scientific of building wood and how the strongest part of wood and chemistry, so they actually know exactly when they go and do stuff themselves, they know actually how to do it from a young age. Obviously how to make clothes and repair clothes in sewing machines. Everyone needs to know how to do this. So when you get older, you don't have to rely on the supermarkets to buy your clothes. Sometimes you can make your own, or if something falls apart, you can actually fix it yourself. Water is the most important thing we can have in this world. So we need to teach children how to look for water, how to make wells, how to look for water, how to purify water the old-fashioned way, so that if there comes a time when there's a drought, they can actually fend for themselves, so that they can actually make their own water and they dig their own wells, and that they can actually live off the land which God has given them. And obviously shorter days, because shorter days means that they get less information, but they absorb more information and more hands-on classes, so they learn the skills that they need to get by, and when they leave school they will be able to do what they need to do. We should also teach children first aid and basic nurse, to be a basic nurse, so in case something goes wrong, that they don't have to rely on an ambulance to get to their house if one of the kids is sick or they're sick or their partner's sick, that they can actually do things themselves and to actually help save lives. And if someone else needs help and they're walking down the street and they see someone else sick, they don't need to wait for the ambulance, they can actually help them straight away. We should also teach children business studies, so when they get out of school, they'll be right ready for the business world. We also need to teach children how to do electronics and how electricity works. This could be a very big principle in fixing their own appliances, or if they want to build something themselves, like an expensive tool which they can build for free, then that's also a really good handy skill to know how electronics works in case they want to build their own tools later on in life. And kids need to learn how to use software and how to build computers, and also computer programming, in case they wish to do something that involves a very skilled computer program, and that they could build themselves and save themselves a lot of money than buying a commercial one from the shops. So you see that the Bible says, "My people are dying from a lack of knowledge," because they don't understand how things work. They don't know how to they don't know how to plant their own trees, or they don't know how to find water. We need teachers, not just the children, but the adults too. Us adults, some of us are a little bit behind because we haven't been taught this stuff in schools. This is the information which has been kept from us, and this information needs to get out there so that we as adults, we can actually learn and get on with our lives in a more efficient way in society today. And also children, they need to know how to do this, so that their future generations of this planet will know that there is actually a better way of life, and we don't have to depend on people or governments, so we can live our lives ourselves without the help from anybody. Mrs. White said in the spirit of prophecy that we should have sanitariums everywhere. We've got 7-day Adventist churches everywhere, so we should use the 7-day Adventist churches to bring people in, to give them advice and help them through the spirit of prophecy to understand, hey look, this is how you beat cancer, this is how you exercise, this is how you raise your kids properly, this is how you get your marriage counseling or mediation with people. We need to use the churches as a sanitarium sort of way that we can teach people to help themselves, the same way Mrs. White wanted in the spirit of prophecy. Now, I'm not going to go into this actually at the moment, but with children, these days are taught some things they shouldn't be taught at school. So what I recommend that we as a society, we should ban any teachings of sexuality in primary school. We should have co-educated schools. That means boys go to one school, girls go to another. And there should be no talk on sexuality till they're in high school, or at least the age of 12. Because today, some groups wish to teach children about their own views of sexuality and brainwash them in the young ages of primary school. In order to stop that, we have to make it against the law to teach children about sexuality until they're at least in high school, which is about the ages of 13, 12 or 13. That needs to be the law of the land today. And of course, we need to teach the Sabbath. For Sunday worshippers of churches are actually teaching a lot of lies in God's name. They're holding back all this great truth that we have through the spirit of prophecy because they don't want to admit they're wrong. The churches are at fault. We need to start preaching the Sabbath message fuller, that we can teach people, hey, look, there is a better way of life. There is a commandments of God. There is a way of helping being cancer, nutrition, and marriage. But we have to break the cycle of Sunday work, people in churches. Sunday churches, because of our lies, are holding back for technology and help which people desperately need. There's actually 7 things in this world everybody needs. Everybody needs water. Without water, you've got nothing. Water helps the plants grow, it grows the animals, and without water, you'll die very quickly. The second thing everybody in this world needs is food. Without food, you'll die, because food is like water. If you don't get enough food, you'll eventually starve yourself to death. So everyone needs water, everyone needs food. The third thing everybody needs is land and seeds. We all need to be able to grow our own food, at least and obviously eat our own food, because if we have our own land, there's going to be no more poor people. They won't need our help if they can grow their own food. This is why it said, is it better to give a poor man a fish or a fishing rod? A fish will last him maybe 1 or 2 days. A fishing rod will give him food for the rest of his life. The fourth thing everybody needs is education, which is English speaking. Obviously, English is part of it, so that they can learn to teach themselves. Because really, the Bible says, my people are dying for lack of knowledge. So everybody needs to learn to teach themselves. And educate, and everything on the internet these days is in English. So English, just reading and hearing, just speaking and reading. They don't even need to have to write English, but just reading English and speaking English is the 2 main things they need in education. And this will come in handy now, because I believe everybody else in the world needs is power. Some sort of cheap generator. Like a laptop doesn't take that much power to run. So everybody needs some sort of power. That's number 5. Number 6 is a computer. Everybody needs a computer. When you know how to speak English and read English, when you've got enough food and water to live by, you've got enough power, you can have a computer. So you can actually learn yourself. And obviously, number 7 is internet. So when you get all these 7 principles, everyone on earth has these 7 principles. If they want to grow bananas, they can just go to YouTube or Google and grow bananas, or grow whatever food they want, or even make their own tools, get their own iron ore, and make their own steel the old-fashioned way. Internet is so handy to teach people how to teach themselves. That's why I view that if you have those 7 things, then there will be no more poor people. But everybody needs those 7 things. And our laptop and power and internet is a part of what everybody needs in this world today. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't have access to internet power and internet. It's a bit unfortunate, but that needs to be taken care of, so that you can take care and teach yourself how to do what you need to do to get on with this life. And obviously, diet's a really important factor. Many people are getting drunk on alcohol or high sugar content and becoming violent. But this is why it says here that many of those who are half converted and Christian meat eating will go and walk with God's people, no more with them. So this means there will come a time that if Christians and Adventists refuse to give up meat and dairy, they will actually no longer walk with God's people. And I want to finish up with one Bible verse. The most important thing to teach children is to be a good example yourself. I asked this question: how come children learn how to speak English? They learn it from their parents, and that English vocabulary, or whatever language you speak, but swearing and swear words come from their parents too. Good parents have good children. Bad parents have bad children. It is true on Judgment Day that bad children will have to give an account of their actions, but the bad parents will also have to give an account of their actions. You can't expect to have good children if you don't keep God's commandments. And Yahushua knew this truth, and he said, and the son can do nothing of himself, but only what he sees his father doing. So whatever he does, that also does it for son likewise. So you see Yahushua said in John, that parents, if you refuse to obey God's commandments, you're going to have bad children. You reap what you sow. Not saying that children are getting away with sin. If child sins, they'll be punished too. But the parents, you've got a huge responsibility. If you swear in front of your kids will grow up will swear as well. Parents, if you don't have a loveless marriage with your partner in front of your children will grow up and disrespect the marriage. They won't want to get married because they saw that the parents didn't have that desire, and the kids will say, well, that's what marriage is. If their parents are abusive and they don't love each other, I don't want to be part of that either. Obviously, if you shoplift and your kids get caught shoplifting, that's your fault. Parents, the children will be accountable for their sins on Judgment Day. No questions asked. But you have to be the good example. And if you, like Yahushua was a good example, showed us how to be a true servant of the Most High. If you parents refuse to keep God's commandments and teach bad things to your children, you will also, on Judgment Day, you will be punished. You'll be punished for your children's sins and for teaching them as well. You'll get a double portion. Your children will get 1 portion. You'll get 2. You have a huge responsibility to raise your children correctly. You are supposed to be fruitful and multiply, but but it's conditional that you actually keep God's commandments. And that means eat the right foods, don't eat unclean meat, don't eat too much sugar, because if your kids eat too much sugar, they lose control of their body with too much energy. You have to keep God's commandments, parents. You have to. Your job is to teach the commandments to your children, not teach whatever you want. If you want to be a disobedient parent, then God's going to treat you like one. It won't be the child's fault, it'll be the parent's fault. You must obey the Most High God. And children, you have to obey God first. So if your parents say to you, go to church on Sunday, you say, sorry, Dad and Mum, I can't go to church on Sunday. I'm going to keep God's commandments. You're right, because you can't serve both masters. If your parents tell you to go worship on Sunday and break the Sabbath, what your parents are doing is to say, look here, don't follow Yahweh Shai, don't follow the Bible, follow us instead. They're becoming a false God. But if your parents tell you to do something, and it doesn't break God's commandments, you must do it. You must honour your parents and make them feel comfortable as best you can. But in doing that, do not break the commandments of God at the same time. You must obey the Most High. You cannot serve two masters. And parents, you have to understand this. A lot of Christian parents are using the honour of a parent's business too far.